Chapter 27. The concept was morally reprehensible. How could Chase expect Brianna to just leave him like that? When she first looked at the wound and witnessed the scaly green, brown skin underneath it, she was shocked. Everything Chase had been weaving in his fantastical tale was not based on reality, she'd thought. She wondered if he was making it all up just so she'd leave. Maybe he wasn't into her since she'd caught him laughing at her earlier, and this was his way to get rid of her for good. But now that she'd seen the wound and knew that even though the story was preposterous, it was in fact the truth, she felt like a heel. She regretted thinking Chase was shallow and mean-spirited like Cynthia and Serafina were. Her heart went out to him as she realized he'd been carrying the weight of this burden on his shoulders for all of his life. No one should suffer any of this. She'd make it her mission to help him in any way she could. Smiling, she offered him a sidelong glance before hurrying to the bathroom. "You know this is your lucky day. Being so clumsy has made me a pro at applying antiseptic and bandages that will keep in place, but at the same time allow flexibility for you to move around comfortably." When she returned with the tin case and set it on the table next to him, she caught him staring at her strangely. She gave him a jerking, quizzical smirk. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "I'm looking at you like this because you're amazing. Here I am telling you I'm turning into a monster, and you act as if it's all okay." She pursed her lips before replying. "I know it's devastating news you've had to live with for all of these years. But there's something you should never forget. You may change on the outside, but deep down inside you'll still be the same Chase. The curse won't rob you of that, right?" He shook his head. "No, it won't affect my mind." She washed the sides of the open wound with antiseptic swabs. He winced and groaned. "I'm sorry. It won't be much longer." She applied a generous amount of antibiotic cream gently over his skin. She sensed he stared at her, but she didn't deter her attention from the task. She cut strips of sterile gauze, folding them numerous times, turning them into super absorbers to dry any blood that may ooze out with his movements. They'd also act as protection against any shock to the wound. Once she'd cut and shaped the bandage to fit perfectly over his wound, she said, "There, it's all done." She looked up to see he hadn't stopped staring at her. He smiled and started to dip in to kiss her softly on her cheek. "Thank you for taking care of me, Brianna." His lips were warm, while his nose had been cold against the side of her face. Her heart fluttered and her entire body tingled as if it had been electronically charged.
Chapter 28. Chase let his emotions run free. He couldn't help himself. Seeing Brianna acting like Nurse Nightingale warmed his heart. She was truly a beautiful person inside and out, and he knew there and then that he'd started to fall in love with her. But he shouldn't act on his impulses. He should restrain them. He was a freak of nature. In 2 short months, he'd turn into a monster who wanted an abomination kissing them. He pulled himself away and bowed his head in shame. "I'm sorry, Brianna. I shouldn't have done that. I probably grossed you out." She touched his chin, gently lifting it until they were looking deeply into each other's eyes. "Why would you have grossed me out?" she frowned, not grasping his meaning. "Because I'm a freak. There's a monster inside of me waiting to break free. Mentally, I'll still be me, but not physically. You aren't a monster or a freak, Chase. You're beautiful." She leaned in and kissed him sweetly on his lips. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her in to deepen the kiss. He kissed her fervently, letting her know what he felt for her. Maybe it was because of the mystical place they were in, but something magical was happening between them, and it was freaking amazing. For the first time in his life, he forgot about the monster that dwelled within him.
Chapter 29. Even though she had been on her feet all day, Brianna danced on the way back to her room. Giddiness had her feeling energized and excited. The kiss she'd shared with Chase was spectacular. He was a great kisser. She still couldn't believe how daring she'd been, taking the initiative and kissing him on the lips. Where did all that bravery come from? She wondered if this newfound valiance would stay with her. Could she finally find the self-confidence and assurance she'd been desperately searching for all of her life? Only time would tell. She just had to wait and see. When she opened the door to her room, Alexis sat on the couch facing her. She was using her tablet. She rested it in her lap. "Where have you been?" When I left you at work, you said you were coming straight here. Oh, I saw Chase. He needed my help with something, she said. Alexa's eyes lit up. Oh, is that the guy you were with earlier when you were late for work? Brianna nodded. Alexa beamed and snapped her fingers. I should have known. Alexa rolled her eyes. I wish I was psychic. But I'm not. Though I don't need to be psychic to see the obvious. There's a strong attraction between you two. I saw the way he was gawking at you in the cafeteria the other day. She stood to pat Brianna's shoulder before walking past her to get a water bottle off the table. You're glowing, Brianna. I'm happy for you that you met a nice guy here. Alexa then headed to the door. I'm going out for a walk. I'll be back in a bit. Alexa shut the door behind her, leaving Brianna alone with her thoughts. Brianna fell back into the sofa thinking about Chase and the phenomenal kiss they shared. She made up her mind that instant that she would do whatever it took to help Chase find a way to break the curse.
Chapter 30. The corridor Chase walked through was dark and haunting. He couldn't remember how he got here or where he was heading. It was as if a heavy cloud had blanketed his brain, making cognitive thoughts obsolete. A low growl slowly wafted toward him from behind. He turned trying to peer into pitch darkness. Who's there? He asked in a deep, intimidating tone, hoping to scare whoever was away. But the growl didn't stop. Instead, it continued to get louder. All of a sudden, a claw-like hand reached out from the darkness to touch him. He jumped, falling out of bed and out of his dream state. He panted and realized the guttural growls from his nightmare were real, and they were emanating from deep inside him.